Hello, Assalamu alaikum everybody. Hope you're all safe, sound, and healthy. And I hope that the fan right above my head is not interfering with the noise. I've noticed that usually when I think it is, it actually is not. But sometimes when I think it's not, it actually is. In any case, I am trying to put my mouth as close to the mic as possible so that the noise cancellation actually works. Anyway, so I'm back because I am peed off. Obviously, why else would I be back if it's not to rant about something? You know, there's a reason why living in this country is hell, and that is literally, this is something I've talked about, especially in my older podcast. Those of you who have been listening to me right from the start would know. One of the worst problems about living in this country is you are constantly in a hypervigilant, paranoid state. Yes, you are constantly in a hypervigilant, paranoid state. You literally spend your whole day thinking, what if the bulb suddenly blows up? What if there's a power surge and my appliances suddenly blow up? What if the fan suddenly falls on my head? Yeah, these are the kind of thoughts you never have, seriously, generally. I know there are people who have had thoughts about the fan falling off their head and all, but in our case, it is literally genuine because when you see how people work here in this country, the recklessness that they show in their work, the dangerous recklessness that they show, the criminal negligence that they show in their work, then these fears, they just keep on piling. I have literally seen my fan swing and sway very dangerously at one point, just because the dimmer that I had to replace of the fan was not even an original. Imagine that even in dimmers they are fake, and the fake ones are even more expensive than the original ones. So when you send somebody to get a dimmer for you, they end up getting a fake one, or should we say a low quality one. It's not of an original brand, it's just one of those generic dimmers that they just make. The problem with these generic dimmers, the reason we call them fake, is because they hardly work for a few months. So it's like they're useless because it doesn't matter where you turn your fan to, the speed is the same. It's either too high or it's too low. You just can't moderate the speed of your fan because the dimmer is useless. But the fact that the dimmer is useless, what happens is it kind of affects the capacitor of your fan. At one point, your capacitor would just not be able to take it and it would just burn out, it would just literally burn out. And that is when your fan would suddenly swing wildly. It usually doesn't happen, but if it happens, then it means that something has gone way, way, way too wrong with both, the dimmer and the capacitor. So imagine, I know I have lived almost 30 years in this country. If I include the years that I didn't live in this country, because I have not actually lived 30 years in this country, I have literally spent at least 4 to 5 years in between abroad. But, when I went back abroad. So first, when we shifted to this country almost 30 years ago, 27 years ago, and then, I went back. And then, so that's 5 years removed. And then again, I was forced back here. Emotionally blackmailed into coming back here. And again, for what? To be kept in a constant state of hypervigilance and paranoia, because as I said, as you know, in the middle of the night, your hood's bulb suddenly decides to burst and blast, and when it's off, everything's off. A country that cannot even take care of its electricity, a country that cannot even provide stable electricity, what do you expect that country to do? A country that is only hell-bent on stealing, on dishonesty, on corruption, on looting, on plundering its own land, its own people, its own resources. What do you expect that country to have? Does it have a future? No. Will it have a future? No. Now the whole world is going to crap. Who's going to have a future anywhere? Anyway, you know. But I mean, this just takes the cake. To be honest, we have, despite everything, we have really never had any real issues pertaining to light, except when the electricians come and they finger something. And this is why, again, I have a problem. The plumbers will come and your absolutely amazing plumbing system will suddenly go to hell. If a gas person comes, God forbid, then you will suddenly have a gas leakage. You will never have had it before he came, but when he comes, if somebody comes to fix the fridge, then suddenly every month your fridge is running out of gas. Why? Since when? Your fridge never ran out of gas until it blew itself to kingdom. But suddenly you have an electrician coming and then it's running out of gas. And then, your electrician comes to put said gas back into your fridge. And he decides to do a test. And whenever these people do their so-called tests of the fridge, they always do a very high-powered test, which means that they give it full power, full voltage to test it. And I don't even know why. You're just filling the damn gas. Put it at its regular speed, please, and, regular voltage and check. No. And, when I'm there, I make sure that they use, because we have solar, so I make sure they use the outlets that are grid outlets. I don't allow them to use the solar outlets because we haven't put the whole house on solar. Thankfully, I've kept power, basically power outlets, most of them. We've kept them on grid. We haven't connected them to the solar at all, so that people can use high-powered appliances. We can use our kitchen high-powered appliances easily on those outlets. But I think yesterday, because obviously I wasn't the one checking them out or, reminding them that they shouldn't use it and all, I think they actually went ahead and they did a test on a solar outlet, because the fridge is basically attached to the solar outlet, so they probably use the same outlet. And hey presto, our main breaker shut down. And guess what's even better than that? What's even better than that? Nobody knew. Because we're on solar, everything was working fine. Nobody knew that they had caused a short circuiting and had shut our main breaker down. So that throughout the day, from 12:30 p.m. to night 11 p.m., we were without light. And when did I find that out? At around 10 p.m. Because, here's another thing. Our solar system, the people in our solar system, the people who are taking care of our solar system, maintenance and, apps and everything, they decided to, put a beta version of their app, a new version. So they're doing a beta test, and it is the worst ever, as if their old version was ever good. The new one is even worse. It's not even user friendly. It's absolutely useless. And it never gives you accurate readings, accurate status. It doesn't give you live reading or status. When there's no light, it shows that there is light. When there is light, it shows there's no light. And I'm talking about grid. When you're online on grid, it shows you're offline. And when you're offline on grid, it shows you're online. So imagine that at 10 p.m., I just check. I suddenly felt that maybe there's no light. And I checked at 10 p.m. and I saw that, there's no light. But the battery of the system, the battery, the backup, it's showing 80%. I'm like, okay, it means light just about went, But no, there was no light the whole day. And my app never showed me that there was no light. It's showing me that there's no light, and it's showing my battery at 80%. And then suddenly after 2 seconds, again, when I check the app again just to make sure, then it shows me, your battery is at 6%. Then I go down, I turn off all the fridges and freezers, I turn off upstairs and downstairs, and I turn off all the lights, and I turn off anything and everything that I think can take power. And I gain myself an extra hour, which then increases to an extra 2 hours. And in that time, I tell my parents that, the electricians you called today, they fucked up. Because everybody's got light except us. So we had to call them And then they came, and obviously they're never going to accept that they fucked up. And yesterday, because my stupid solar app didn't give me accurate information, and because the solar people were half asleep and they were not answering me on time, so I found out only today in the morning when they emailed me that yes, indeed, I was out. We had a power outage from 12:30 p.m. till 11 p.m. at night. And nobody knew, and nobody bothered to even check or see, and the app was giving me inaccurate information. So on both counts, the electricians that caused the breakdown, now they wouldn't admit it. They're like, no, actually, after it was all fine, it happened after we left, because that time even we thought it happened after they left. So what were we supposed to say? We're like, yeah, we get. But I'm like, whatever it is, whether it's after or during or before, you did it. You did something and you caused the surge, whatever the surge was. They were like, oh, it's a surge that probably happened. I checked and verified there was no surge. And so when I verified the timeline, then I was 100% sure that my first suspicion that they did a stupid test, a very reckless test that caused a short circuiting, that shut down the breaker, the main breaker outside, the breaker that's attached to your green meter, to your net meter. That. And there you are. You have no light all day, all night. And everybody's, living in their own world. This is why I say when you're always you look, as I said, I'm already constantly in a hypervigilant state because of all the antics pulled by the solar people and the Alesco people and the electricians, especially since the installation of solar, to be very honest, since the installation of solar, because now there's an excuse to call electricians to fiddle with things, So now we're facing this more. I think till the time we didn't have, all through that time that we didn't have solar, I think we lived in more peace because we tended not to call the electricians. But even then, the one or two times that we had blackouts was because of an electrician that had to fiddle with the DP, the fuse box, and then cause a problem, which always occurred after they left. It's amazing how the kind of problems that they occur, it's like a slow burn sort of a thing. They leave and after an hour or two, boom, everything's gone, And every time I have that suspicion that they're up to something, it always happens. That is when you have really, really good instincts, that makes living even more difficult because every single time you're like, oh, okay, this is bad. And yesterday, throughout the day, I was trying to block my mind. I was trying to say, no, don't think negative, nothing's happening. Don't think negative, nothing's happening. And actually, the thing had happened. Yeah, the thing had happened. And everybody was just lost in their own world. Nobody even knew what was going on. And if I hadn't checked and seen the status, which was wrong anyway, but still, when the status managed to correct itself on the app, and I saw that, okay, this is critical. And then I put two and two together, and I'm like, yeah, okay, they fucked up. So, and so we had to call them, and they had to fix it. But obviously, the point is, again, you're already living in a country in which everything and anything can go wrong. Your government, your army are already making your lives hell. You literally are living in hell. The incompetence, the corruption, the irresponsibility, the carelessness, the recklessness, the negligence, the fact that life is so cheap here that nobody cares, that even electricians go around playing with wires in such a stupid, absolutely stupid manner. The fact that licenses are not issued to plumbers and electricians and, all these skilled laborers, so that you really, it's only your own experience with them that tells you who's really good and who's not good, or references from other people who have had good electricians and plumbers. Otherwise, if you're on your own and you don't know who to ask, or if you have not lived here and you've got no references and literally you're out of the blue, you are taking a gigantic risk by calling any one of these people. And it's all up to God. It's literally up to God. You're literally throwing your whole life, away in the name of God, hoping that, oh, he might just have some mercy on you and everything will go right. This is the heights. I mean, imagine if you're constantly living in that state, how can you move on in life? How can such a country move ahead? And that's why our country's never moved ahead. How can it? In fact, it's a damn miracle that anything gets done in this country. I don't know how things get done in this country because, in my experience, this is how things get done. And when you have a person who is not even competent enough to remind the electricians or to stop the electricians or to check them that they should, not use a certain power plug, or they should use a certain outlet, not a certain outlet, and but again, why should we even do that? Again, as I said, as electricians, they should know their limitations. They should know the do's and the don'ts. They should know the hazards. They should know what any kind of carelessness can lead to. But this is the country that we're living in. And this is why I just cannot forgive my parents for constantly emotionally blackmailing me and forcing me back into this hellhole. I think, as I've said a long time ago, many times, I think how sincere somebody is, especially your parents. You know how sincere they are with you by how they interfere with your future plans. If they come in between you and your career path, if they come in between you and your future plans, if they come in between you and success, I'm sorry, but then your parents are not sincere. No sincere person, no sincere parent in their right mind would ever tell their kids, look, I know majority of the people in Pakistan, how do they think? They're born and bred in Pakistan, but their thought is, let's get a foreign passport for our kids. And then look at my parents. I was born and bred abroad, and my parents were like, let's reject all the passports offered to us because we have to have only Pakistani passport. Because we cannot afford to have our children's doors open. That's the message, you see. That's the message you get when you grow up and you see that all your doors are closed, all your opportunities are closed. Because even though you're born and bred abroad, but you don't have the passport to prove that, you just have a measly fucking Pakistani passport. And that ultimately means doors closed. Unless you use the means that the people of Pakistan and India and Bangladesh use, or other countries, to leave their country when they're desperate. And that's not something I'm prepared to do. I don't want to go through those weird-ass means. I want to be able to travel straightforwardly and pick and choose how I'm going, where I'm going, and why I'm going. I don't want to be taken advantage of. I don't want my desperation to be taken advantage of. And so I have to suffer. As a result, I have to suffer because I'm trapped. And what I'm trying to say is, in Islam, there is no concept of nationality. There's no concept of nations, of nationalism, of patriotism. No, there's a concept of universality. There is the concept that everything belongs to God, the whole land belongs to God, the whole world belongs to God, and that if one country isn't doing it for you, you have the right to leave that country. In fact, you are told to leave that country. In Islam, you're literally told to leave your country in order to look for a better life. Choose a better future. But when your own parents are pushing you back, dragging you back, they're not only are they going against the commandments of Islam, not only are they going against God's commands, but they are literally proving what selfish pricks they are. That they themselves have lived abroad most of their lives, but they don't want you to live abroad and make your career. So they wanted better lives for themselves, but they didn't want better lives for their kids. That's the message that they're giving their children. And this is why I always have a problem with all those parents. And I've seen many who have tried to stop their sons and daughters from going abroad. And then they've tried to bring them back insisting that they should get married and that they should, why? Why? Do you have anything in return? You see, the thing I ask these parents is, you want them to give up their lives and come back here. Do you have anything to offer to them in return? Can you get them a job here? A good job that can give them the pay they deserve, keeping in mind their experience, their education abroad. Can you? No. Can you promise them a good life here? No. Are you going to give them, assets worth in billions and billions of dollars? No. But you know what? They can earn all that in a good way by working hard. Whatever hard work they'll put in, they'll get the equivalent reward while they're working out there. What have you got to offer? If you've got nothing to offer in return, why do you want people to give up what they are already working so hard for? Oh, because they're your kids, you feel like you own them, they're your properties. That's it? Yeah, that's not an Islamic concept. In Islam, you don't own anybody, nobody's your property, remember? In Islam, you're just tools of God used by Him in order to bring His people to earth. That's it. That's all you are, okay? You have a role to play. You're given responsibilities and duties to make sure that these new people under your care, these people that are being sent through you into this world, under your care, that they should be able to live their lives properly without you at one point in life, But the problem with Asian parents is their pagan culture is so deep rooted in their psychology, and this cycle is not getting broken anytime soon. I know my generation thinks, oh, we're breaking the cycle. No, I'm sorry, but even you're not breaking. You may be breaking the cycle in some things, but you're not breaking the cycle in other things that matter. So, no, we still have a long way to go, And you're thinking that, oh, you know what? Your innate pagan psychology that is coming from generation to generation is, they're our kids, we own them, they must do what we want, they must live the way we want, they must, and ultimately it is that they must take care of us in our old age. And why is it always the girls that have to take care of their parents in the old age? That's what I never. You want boys because you think they will be our support in our old age. But at the end, it's always the girls that end up being the support. They're the ones sacrificing and compromising and doing everything, while your sons are hobnobbing around, jacking it up all over the world, traveling here and there and making their lives with their wives and their kids, which they're supposed to anyway. Which is, again, it leads back to the whole point that Islamically, although it is incumbent upon the sons to take care of their parents, it is incumbent upon the children to take care of their parents when their parents reach old age and need taking care of. But at the same time, you cannot ruin their futures just to ensure that they have nothing to their name, so that they have no choice but to live with you and take care of you. You're not allowed to do that. Because it's not incumbent for them to personally even come and take care of you. Taking care of you means that they should be able to give you financial support. They should be able to arrange caretakers for you. They should be able to arrange facilities for you. Taking care of you doesn't literally mean that they should ruin their whole lives, their whole futures, put everything on hold, leave their families and come and sit with you, or force their families to come and take care of you too. No, that's not even an Islamic concept. I'm sorry, you've misread the whole thing. Taking care of parents, yes. Incumbent upon children, yes. Your sons-in-laws and your daughters-in-laws, they are not even supposed to be taking care of you. They're supposed to be taking care of their parents. But over here, people, they don't want their sons to take care of them. They want their sons to get married so that their wives should come and take care of them. And that is absolutely, absolutely against Islam. Again, that is your pagan concept. So, this is what has gotten down to this point, that people are living in this toxic society with such toxicity, which, as I have always said, begins at home. Because when you're forced to sacrifice and compromise your life, your plans, your ambitions for nothing, then the funny part is that even God isn't going to reward you for that. And he's made that very clear. He's made it very clear that you should go in search of a better life, go in search of risk, you know, go all over the world and get better opportunities. But when you're not allowed to do that by your family, when they create circumstances and situations that trap you, and you're not allowed to do that, and then you're trapped in a country that has no jobs, no future, no career, no money, no honesty, no hard work, it's corruption everywhere, and you have nowhere else to go. Then what is that supposed to be? You think you're going to get a reward? Oh, yeah, they sacrificed their lives and their futures for their parents' happiness. No, no, God isn't going to see it that way. He's made that very clear. He said that the first thing that the angels will ask the people who have lived in oppression. Now, the reason I am quoting this ayat is because notice it will not just apply to people in oppression. Although this ayat specifically talked about people who have lived under oppression, he said that when you die, the first thing that the angel will ask you when it comes to take your soul away is, was God's world not big enough to accommodate you, that you had to stay here like this? Why didn't you leave? So you see, you're not going to even be rewarded for living under oppression and enduring it. You're not. So tell me, when God has time and again told you, leave. Leave for better opportunities. Leave for risk. Leave for a better life. Leave, travel the world, look around God's world and find a good place to make a better life. You think that the angels are not going to ask you too that, okay, was God's world not big enough for you to just leave for a better life? You think that the angels are going to say, no, no, this only applies to the oppressed people. It doesn't apply to people like you. No, people like you, we're going to reward you for living trapped here, not looking for a better life. Yeah, no. In fact, in case you people didn't know, parents, you are going to be punished for this. You're going to be punished literally for not allowing your children to have a good future. Because one of the conditions of passing the test of parenthood in Islam, one of the conditions of going to heaven, having fulfilled your parental duties and responsibilities, is making your children capable enough to have a life of their own. How many of you have actually done that? You think it means just making them, getting them the education they need to get a job and, no. Yes, they need to get the education, and then they need to be able to get a job, good enough that is actually, something that they've invested so much money, something you have invested so much money on their education, so that they should get a job that is good enough, where they can actually get something in return. But also for them to be able to look forward to better opportunities in life. Not that they should only do the job that suits you, their family, so that they should stay with you, their family, for the rest of their life, which even if that means not taking that opportunity, or telling your children that they should only do the kind of job that you want them to do based on their genders, or telling your children that they should do they should get a job or employment only within a certain area or only in certain institutions. Yet these are the kind of things that you are actually going to be held into account for. You're not gaining any rewards for that. You are literally having you're committing a double sin. Sin number one, you're forcing somebody to do something that you want, which, as you know, in Islam is one of the biggest sins ever. You can't even force somebody to believe in God. If you can't even force somebody to believe in God, which is such a huge thing, tell me, how is it that you think you'll get away with forcing somebody to live the life you want them to live, to do the work you want them to do, to work in a place you want them to work? How did you think that actually was going to, get absolved? No. So punishment number one, or sin number one, forcing somebody to do something you want, and sin number two, crippling their lives to suit your needs. And again, this is what our government is doing. This is what our army is doing already to us. As a society, we're being crippled. Our lifestyle is being crippled. Our quality of life is being crippled. We ourselves are being crippled so that we have nothing. All we have is living in hypertension, hypervigilance, and paranoia that, oh, every single thing in your house can burst into flames. Any and every single thing in your life, in your house, in your everyday life that you're not even supposed to be thinking about, it will go wrong. It can go wrong, and it does go wrong. So you're living in a constant state of tension, of stress, and it's constant. It's constant. You're getting no breaks. You're getting no relief. You understand? This leads to mental illness at one point. And then you sit and wonder why everybody's a retard. Yeah, everybody's a retard because of constant stress and tension that just doesn't end. If it's not the electricity, it's the gas. If it's not gas, it's water. If it's not water, it's bulbs bursting through. If it's not that, it's fans swinging wildly in the ceiling. If it's not that, it's somebody coming and lying to you about something very little. If it's not that, it's somebody coming and stealing from you. If it's not that, it's somebody coming and not even doing his due diligence in his work, but he wants you to give them the full money. If it's not that, then it's somebody who comes and creates a whole mess of things, fucks everything up, but still wants their money. If it's not that, then it's people, it's the government and the army placing on you illegal taxes of your hard-earned money that you're not even able to earn in the first place. If it's not that, then it's your families who are constantly piling their shit on you because they think that they have rights on you and you have duties towards them. They seem to forget their duties very conveniently. If it's not that, then it's you going around trying to look for a job that actually caters to your experience and your qualification, only to find out that somebody who has neither has actually taken a higher position, and not just a higher position, but a position in tenure or a permanent position, pension and all, just because they bribed someone or they have connections. So your education doesn't matter, your experience doesn't matter, your hard work doesn't matter. In a country where hard work does not yield the reward, in a country where shortcuts, recklessness, unprofessional behavior, incompetence, criminal negligence actually gives reward, what do you expect? Do you expect such a country to make progress? Do you expect the people in that country to make progress? I'll say it again. I've said this 1,000 times in 1,000 different ways for a very long time. The best way to stunt a country's growth is to stunt their people's growth. And the best way to stunt the people's growth is to bombard them with unnecessary tensions 24/7, so that they are not able to think about anything constructive or progressive in their life. How can you expect a person living in a country like Pakistan or India to actually have a constructive thought, to actually have a progressive thought, to actually sit down and make plans and to execute those plans for their future, when they're too busy thinking about what else now is going to go wrong? Now what will erupt? Now what will burst into flames? Now what is going to get spoiled? Now what is going to get fucked up? Now who's going to do what wrong? Now what mess do I need to clear? There's no light, there's no water, there's no gas. Everybody's just fucking you up. Your society is making you pay for both water and securities. And then they also want you to pay for the roads that they have to construct. And then they want you to pay for the extra measures they're taking, for little things. But they're doing nothing, actually. They haven't taken any extra measures. They're getting bribed by different companies to come and dig up your roads, to put their own brand of cables underground, which nobody's even using. They will spend money, the budget, out of the budget without anybody's permission, without the members' permission, and they will shut down already properly running units, and there is no security and there's no water. Amazing. This is the kind of country we're living in. It's a miracle more than half of us aren't dead. It's a miracle. And it's not a surprise that we're having a lot of young deaths in this country. A lot of young people dying of heart attack. It's a miracle that we aren't getting a heart attack. It's a miracle none of us have completely lost it. We've all basically lost it, but we're functioning retards. Okay? Right now, we're functioning mental cases. It's a miracle we haven't entered the loony bin yet. It's a miracle. It's a fucking miracle. This is hell on earth. There are many hells on earth. I know. There are many people. People in Korea will say, no, Korea is hell on earth. People, the youngsters in Japan will say, no, actually, this is pretty much hell too. The people in America would say, man, you don't even know what hell is. But believe me, this is a special hell on earth. And I hope everybody dies. And I hope the government and all their minions, the army, the police, everybody, every single body in this country that has committed corruption or criminal negligence deliberately or dishonesty or, whatever. All of you, I just hope you just get burnt alive, I guess. I don't know. I just hope you just drop dead. This is me signing out. Khuda Hafiz.